Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. We are continuing our week of learning. Wish everybody a Chodesh Tov, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which means Pesach is rapidly approaching. Hope everyone's preparations are well in order. And for those who want some Torah preparation, feel free to search back for our previous episodes on the meaning of Pesach and, of course, Leil HaSeder. Please continue davening for Chayalei Tzva Agana Yisrael, Refuah Shalem L'Chalam Yisrael, and the safe return of all of our hostages. And our learning is dedicated Le'ilu Nishmas, Saren Daniel Shimon ben Harav Daron V'Sheli, Hashem Yakum Damo. So the next chapter, Eglah Arufa. Achas mitzvah she melamdos es godol achrayis hatziburus l'chay adam, hi mitzvah Eglah Arufa. So one of the mitzvahs that teaches us the importance of responsibility that we have to the community, to the public, in terms of how people should live, is this unusual mitzvah of Eglah Arufa. And here we go. Shenemar. Ki matzei chala b'adama asher Hashem elokech nosei lecha l'rishta, nofel b'sadeh lo nada mihiko. V'yatzu zekenech v'shevtechem l'dedu es harim asher esvos echalal. The pasuk tells us in Devarim that when you find a dead body, and we don't know what happened, we don't know who killed this person, it says that the elders and the judges, they have this whole measurement. They have to decide who's responsible, and they have this whole carbon that follows. Let's see. Klomar, mutalas haklal hatzibur manigav ha'achrayus lahasir sakanos mibnei adam. That the responsibility falls on the community and its leaders to remove any sort of danger towards man. And when they are not successful in preventing murder, then they have to make a real evaluation of self. Therefore, it's not the investigators, but it's the leaders of the nation, it's the leaders of the community that have to check and see what happened. We have to see which city is closer to the dead body. And therefore, they would have to bear the responsibility and to search and figure out what happened. Is there a murderer in their midst? And because of this investigation that's trying to figure out what happened, who murdered this person, so everybody's going to realize what's happening. There's a murderer in their midst. Everybody's going to start looking inward. And since there's a big investigation, everybody's involved in the community, that it could be that people who are maybe protecting or hiding or know something will come forward, and then he'll be able to be held accountable for his crimes. So then the Torah continues that once we know which city is closer, it's an unusual procedure where the elders of the city, the judges, the Kohanim, they would bring a young calf and they would take it to the valley. The pasuk says that all the elders of the city that was closer to the dead body, they would rinse their hands over this calf that had its neck broken in the valley. And they would say that our hands did not spill this blood, our eyes did not see. The question is obvious. Why would they have to confess to something that they obviously didn't do? Why would they have to say our hands did not spill this blood? Seems like a very unusual statement in the Torah. The Gemara in Sota tells us, we bear responsibility because he left our city and we left him without food and supplies. We didn't see him leave and we didn't allow him to stay overnight. We let him travel at night. When there's a murder that takes place, we have to bear some sort of responsibility. Maybe there's something we could have done to prevent it. Maybe the person who was killed didn't know where he was going. And he went to a bad neighborhood and he encountered listim, armed robbers. V'lo hayu malavim also hayu holich b'derech hamelech v'chai. It's really not v'lo, v'lu. V'lu hayu malavim. Had we escorted him properly, perhaps he would have gone on the proper road and he'd be alive today. And if he left hungry and we didn't give him food, so we have to bear responsibility for that. Maybe he'll die from starvation. And maybe if he didn't have food and he was starving, he might turn to desperation, turn to crime, and he might kill or be killed. Even understanding this, that people who are hungry, if we let them go hungry, we have responsibility, and it could lead to much more graver sins. He says, now, to our consternation, we hear today of people who are killed at the opening of a store, or fighting over a parking spot. And the leaders of the congregation, the leaders of the community, do not accept any sort of responsibility. They have no culpability. They don't even acknowledge it. Al pi hadrachta shel haTorah, miyad himivada davar haretzach hayutzrichim l'kanes begisha shel sarei chinuch harvacha bitachon hapenim im rosh ha'ir v'seganav u'nitzigim mechirim me'arechas hamishpat v'hamishtarah kedei la'aroch cheshbon nefesh. According to the Torah way, what should happen is when we find out, let's say, something as grave as a murder takes place, there has to be a meeting. Educational ministers, security, internal security, homeland security, heads of city, all of the officers, everything that has to do with law enforcement, so that we can have a calculation of cheshbon hanefesh. Maybe we didn't recognize the problems when they started to arise. Maybe we looked aside. We looked away from lighter offenses. And this let the door open for perhaps more grave sins. Maybe punishment is not enough, or we're not doing enough to prevent these things. Maybe the educational system is not doing its job and teaching people the right way. Only afterwards can we ask. As the Pesukim conclude in Eglah Arufa, only afterwards can we say and ask for atonement from Hashem, and that there shouldn't be any dam naki in any clean blood, meaning we should try to absolve ourselves of any responsibility. But first we have to enter into the conversation of humility and saying that, you know what, there is something that perhaps we could have done better. One need not look too far in feeling what the people of Israel are experiencing right now in terms of culpability and leadership, and one doesn't have to look too far to see those who have already accepted responsibility about what's been happening in the last 6 months, and those who refuse to bear responsibility or culpability. Those days will come, and I'm not looking to indict anyone, but I just know, after speaking from hundreds of people in Israel, the feelings that exist on the ground, that at the very least people would like to say, people come forward, especially people in leadership positions, and say, we messed up. We did something wrong. This is our fault. We have to fix it. That's my personal thought. And there's so much more to say about that, but that's beyond the purview of this. But one cannot help think that when reading this parak of Peninei Halacha. So please continue to daven for Chayalei Tzvah Yisrael, for Shalem is needed, safe return of our hostages, do a mitzvah, learn something. Lili Nishmat, Saren, Daniel, Shimon Ben, Harav Daron Visheli, Hashem Yikam Damo. Thanks for listening. We'll see you here next time. Have a good day.